What's going on, guys? Mr. Brickswag back here with another video. Today we have a pretty interesting set. So this is actually from a line that I have never really touched before, and there's a couple of reasons why I got this set. It's not probably for the reasons that you think, but here we have the first Midi-Scale ship I'm reviewing. This is the Millennium Falcon. So the Midi-Scale line of ships is basically LEGO's way of making kind of smaller display sets that are not necessarily UCS, but look very good on a shelf. So all of these pretty much have stands. They're generally like bigger size ships or like capital ships, that kind of stuff. Some of the sets LEGO has never made sets for before, and some of them they definitely have. The Millennium Falcon has as many iterations as I can think of, and in fact, this is actually my first Millennium Falcon ever. It's probably not going to be my last. I plan on getting one eventually. Probably a UCS scale one whenever the new one comes out. Not really interested in the old one. But anyway, the reason why I got this set is actually not for the set itself. I am going to build this and review it. I might have it on my shelf for a short period of time. But really the reason why I got this is because it has so much mock potential. People have made so many mocks of this thing. They've transformed this into other Midi-Scale ships, and they've also transformed this into play sets and stuff like that. The piece usage on this thing is absolutely amazing, I guess, and so that's the reason why people love it so much. But anyway, it's gonna go ahead and unbox this set, build it, review it, kind of take a look at it, and let you guys know all my thoughts. So without further ado, let's go ahead and build it. Alrighty guys, just finished the unboxing of the Millennium Falcon set. Pretty thick box, which is really interesting, and a perfectly black background, so no box art, unfortunately, because this is an 18+ display set. We have a total of 921 pieces that come within 11 numbered bags. That is actually a very, very high piece count for the price. I think this comes in at $85 retail. I got it for only $60 on Amazon, I believe. It was a really, really good deal, so definitely check that out if you haven't already. This set goes on sale a lot. There are no stickers or minifigures with this set, which is probably why it is as cheap as it is. It does come with this really cool blue piece, though, which I think is used for the thrusters in the back of the ship. Also comes with this instruction manual. Nothing really too crazy here, but it does give you some really cool background information about the Millennium Falcon, diving into the history of the ship. Obviously, one of the most iconic ships in Star Wars history, flown by Han Solo. So yeah, just really, really cool. Very excited to get into this and finally build my first Millennium Falcon and my first Midi-Scale ship. So I'll tune in with you guys after I'm done with the build. Alrighty guys, just finished the build of the Midi-Scale Millennium Falcon. Looks absolutely fantastic. It was a great and fun build process. I would say that there were points during the build process that some things felt a little bit repetitive. Especially, with the very limited number of colors on this thing, there isn't a ton of creativity. But I will say that it was pretty fun overall, pretty methodical and everything. It's just, again, the one thing was that some bits felt like you were just doing the same thing over and over. But the build itself, pretty fun, really fun building techniques for sure. Very advanced. The way they got the shaping on this thing, absolutely incredible. I would like to kind of marvel a little bit at the engineering of this thing, the way they managed to do a perfectly kind of like diagonal axis instead of doing just a straight stand like most sets do. This has a very slight tilt to it, which just gives it an amazing look. Perfect for display, to be honest. A really perfect display set. I love the fact that there was no sticker application required. All the pieces that you see here are printed pieces, which is really sick. Adds a lot of detail to this model. Definitely a huge plus about the set. Again, just fantastic building techniques and everything in general. If I had to rate the build process overall, definitely give it an 8 out of 10. Again, the only thing that would really make it a 10 is if it was a little less repetitive. But aside from that, everything is pretty much perfect. It's not the sturdiest build in the world. That's kind of the other thing. But it is a display model, so I don't really count that against it. And yeah, I just think the build techniques and everything in this thing was fantastic. Very well designed set by LEGO for sure. Now, one thing I would like to point out about this set is that there is no minifigure lineup for me to kind of go over. However, there are very cool Easter egg details. Apparently, LEGO has been doing this for every kind of Midi-Scale Star Wars set. They sort of sneak in these little studs that represent minifigures. And so here you can see R2-D2 playing chess or I should say checkers, I think. Yeah, space checkers, if I'm not mistaken, against Chewbacca. So that's a really cool scene. These are all from episode 4, by the way. So if you haven't watched episode 4, then that's where this is all from. This is Princess Leia talking to Han Solo. Again, you can see it's kind of blue and the brown representing him and the white robe representing Leia. And then there's C-3PO who kind of walks into their little romantic moment, which is really funny. And then finally you have Luke here who is talking to Obi-Wan Kenobi. Again, just really, really nice touches. I love the way LEGO does that. Now, given that this is a display model, I guess it's time to talk about the most important part of the set itself, which is the display. So I'm going to start here with the bottom with the stand. So you'll notice that there is a 25th anniversary kind of brick here. And you can actually put this onto the stand itself. All you have to do is take off this little grate piece right here and kind of put this on, just like so. And then you go ahead and put the grate piece back onto here. Oops, just like that. Very, very cool indeed. Again, you don't have to do that. I mean, you could just leave the 25th anniversary brick separate, whatever, but that's kind of the official way to display it, I guess, if you want to do that. Now, looking at the ship itself and kind of the overall aesthetic, again, I think it looks absolutely fantastic. This is Midi-Scale, so it's a little bit on the smaller side, but it actually came out a little bit bigger than I expected. I'm not sure what I was expecting for size, to be honest. I guess I knew it was going to be bigger than like a poly bag, for example, or a small build, but I knew it was going to be smaller than, a traditional playset. This is a, fairly sizable model, and so it's nice and detailed, and you can take a look at it, and there's a lot of things to look at, but it's also, not too big to the point where you can't put it on your shelf. Most people could put this on their desk or whatever, and it just looks absolutely fantastic. Very, very nice. So just talk about the color scheme at first. Everything is very, very accurate. So there's light gray, dark gray, with a mix of red here and there, which really gives this set a little bit of pop compared to some of the other sets in the Midi-Scale collection. Again, all these pieces are printed right here. So it is really, really nice to just have that as additional detail. You have some printed pieces on the top here, as well as on the sides right there. Really, really sick. You have a turret cannon that kind of faces like that, and again, another printed piece right here. Really, really cool. So that's really nice. You can kind of pose this antenna piece. You can also pose this. It's very limited, but it gives you a little bit of movement. I probably just put it towards the front like it's supposed to be. It's a little radar dish, so I'm supposed to put it like that. The cockpit right here, this is actually probably the weakest part of the build in my opinion. So there is a really nice printed cockpit piece, which is really nice. However, you can kind of see that there is a gap right here. It's a really big gap. You can see the Technic piece and everything. That's not really nice. I'm not a fan of that. And I think this part in general just looks kind of off to me for some reason. So yeah, not the biggest fan of that. It is a weak point of the build, in my opinion, personally. But taking a look at the back right here, this is actually a piece. This is the piece that came out kind of separate from the rest of the parts. It's an interesting choice. I think it does pop out a little bit more than I kind of wanted to, but it does look nice. Obviously, if you had this, brick built, it would probably look a lot better, but given the size limitations, I think this is probably the best they could do. It is an interesting and very creative use of the piece. But yeah, really, really cool there. And speaking of creative things, there's just techniques that they use to kind of put these plates together. It was really genius. I mean, it's very, very smart, and it allows for decent stability. Nothing crazy. Like you can see, I'm not breaking this or anything. I definitely wouldn't play with this model, but it is like a pretty interesting, way to put things together. So going ahead and taking a look at kind of the underside of this build, it looks really cool, honestly. Again, aside from the cockpit piece, which will always be just kind of bad looking, the rest of it looks really, really nice. There's just fantastic greebling throughout this entire set. Obviously, the bottom side is a little less detailed than the top side, but it's still really, really nice. I mean, one of the best bottom kind of sides of ships I've seen, certainly compared to a lot of places that we get where the bottom is just completely Technic or doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. You even see a little skateboard piece right there. Just again, a ton of detail on this set in general. It looks fantastic. And again, it's sturdy enough for me to hold and kind of flip like that. So really, really cool. Definitely a fan of this set. I wouldn't say it's my kind of style of set, but it is really cool. If I had to give this set an overall rating, I would probably give it a 7 out of 10. Again, it's not my taste in set, so I think a lot of people would rate it a lot higher, again, for the fact that it has a really nice build technique and it has some really good printed pieces, and it's just very, very movie accurate, and even has some Easter eggs. That's definitely a couple like pros of the set. I'm just personally not the biggest fan of this type of display model. I only got this really for the MOCs, unfortunately. But if you are like a fan of these type of sets, this is definitely one of the better ones you can get. From what I've seen, this is really, really awesome. Again, has a ton of display value, and it's a really fun build process in all. I think it's good value for your money if you buy it on sale, for sure. Anyway, guys, hope you really enjoyed this set review. It's a really cool set. Definitely really enjoyed making this video. But if you guys enjoy the content, please leave a like down below. If you have any feedback for me, negative or positive, please leave a comment. I read all the comments, and make sure to incorporate feedback in my future videos. And please subscribe, to this channel. It really helps me out a lot. And if you want more LEGO Star Wars videos, then stay tuned to Mr. Brickswag. Peace out, guys.